aid are you bringing to them? Just food?
Yeah, for now it's food.
Are you looking forward to push that aid to something sustainable, something that can enable them to generate income for themselves without necessarily just waiting for you to come in with food?
We as S.E.R Foundation, my co-founders and I, were looking at one, shelters, and at least having a place for them to learn a trade. You know, because if they learn a trade, they can go out there and they can have their own businesses, they can be independent. You know, so that's something we're looking at in the future.
Let's take some interviews now, and we'll be right back in a moment.
As of now, as we are talking, children without birth certificate. And again, one other major problem is poverty. Up to today, you have a good number of children still coming to register for the GCE when the registration has ended last Friday. So we are pleading to the authorities that if they can look into it and extend the deadline for registration for the GCE, it may be better. It will go a long way to help the children.
Because I never had a birth certificate, and my uncle was afraid to come to the council to follow up the issue of the birth certificate. So he decided to follow an NGO organization who said they will be producing free birth certificate. And since here there are no birth certificate available.
Able to register for the GC because I lost my father. So all this I've been in the village. So when I came back, I had to struggle to raise money for my registration.
We, the Bambali people, are here because we had a land issue with the fund of Nkwen and a certain General Tanga, General in quote. They came in to Bambali land and destroyed our homes. We came and complained to the SDO of Mezam. The SDO of Mezam, Felix Gelengele, the former SDO, he came and put an injunction order there. The injunction order is still effective there. The Bambali people are respecting the injunction order, but the people are not respecting the injunction order. To our greatest surprise, there is a military camp there protecting Kwen people, and they are constructing on the same land with the injunction order. We have come out to cry that how can they put an injunction order and some people are respecting and some people are not respecting? Is it that the injunction order is only to the Bambali and not to Kwen? If the government is supporting Kwen than Bambali, they should tell us. Let's know. This issue stemmed out since 1972. We have court cases. There are cones there. People came and destroyed the cones in 1972. The government who came up here, the High Court of Mezam issued a judgment, and the judgment is there, but people are not respecting. Some people here don't have homes. Our children are no more going to school because they are raffia, grown-up raffia that we used to tap and send children to school. How many that send children to school? But none. We cannot go there again because of the injunction order.
Right, thank you for staying with us. FENJIE TAMAJONG,
Thank you.
if you had a message for all the internally displaced persons and even the refugees who are in neighboring Nigeria, what would be that message today?
My message for them is for them to stay strong and to stay prayed up. Believe in God. Nothing is permanent. This is not going to be permanent. I believe it's going to be over soon. I believe the husbands and the situation in Amazonia is going to get better. So I just want everybody to have hope. I have hope, so right. You should have hope too.
It is very important to have hope. Now, what do you think government should start doing like now? Government should start doing as a matter of urgency to alleviate the sufferings of these Cameroonians?
as a matter of urgency, what I suggest for the government to do is provide shelters for these people. Provide shelters and basic needs. I am just happy that we're at this point. Again, S.E.R Foundation, Safe Empowerment Reform, is a foundation, and we're 4 co-founders. It's me in charge of the USA, and we have Bibi Lomo and Suzanne Akuma from Canada. They're in charge of Canada, and we have Melanie, who's in charge of Africa. So Elizabeth TAMAJONG is our mentor. She's the godmom of our organization.
Before you go, how are you financing these activities of aid that you're bringing to internally displaced persons and the needy in general in Cameroon, other parts of Africa, and even the US, as you indicated earlier? Is the money coming from your pocket?
No, we have sponsors. We have a website too that people go on there when we have events and all that, and they donate for the people. That's how we get the money and the resources to go out there and give to the people. And also we can go into our pockets if we want to do more. But so far we have been blessed with a lot of sponsors, with a lot of people with a good heart who know that there are people out there suffering. We've been blessed.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're with us and you are touched by the situation of the internally displaced persons, refugees, and the needy in general, just go to the website of Safe Empowerment Reform Foundation and drop something there for these persons. They all need our help. They all need us to show them love and concern. Thank you very much, FENJIE TAMAJONG. Thank you for joining us in this conversation today.
Thank you.
We are bringing to you an interview about borrowing, about loans, and we want to explain, we want to edify our viewers on the necessity for loans, borrowing from banking institutions, and how to borrow, what to borrow for, and how to go about this in such a way that it does not become a hindrance to growth, but a catalyst of growth. We bring into you an expert in that domain. Fowan Roland, you are a financial expert. Thank you for accepting to answer questions. While loans are generally and frequently associated with negative connotations like debts, financial strain, and risk, they can actually be powerful tools for individual development, or better still, individual financial growth. Tell us more about this.
Thank you for that question. That is critical to our being human and doing business and doing everything that we go about life, which of course not seeks to know about the introducing the public to what is a loan. A loan, simple, is a financial instrument that is used to finance, or that is used to pay for other assets. Yeah. So to an individual or to a company, a loan would appear as a liability, but to the lender or the financial institution or whoever, the loan is an asset, of course, which means that you obtain a loan to be able to obtain an asset. So kind of a loan is a liability to you that you take, but what do you do with it is what you probably want to acquire as an asset, which can just be a basic satisfaction, or really acquiring a kind of a physical asset, to run or improve the situation of whatever you are trying to handle. It can be a business, it can just be a ceremony, but the most important thing is a loan is expected to create value. A loan is expected to add value to the system or to the person involved.
How do access to an effective utilization of loans contribute to individual financial growth and the overall economic development of a country?
Yes, like I said, a loan is a liability to you which you want to use to acquire an asset. You can choose to acquire an asset that is just goodwill. Just you can take a loan and make a gift. That is just goodwill to you, or you can take a loan and do a wedding. At the end of the day, you have your marriage certificate and you have something, but that is an asset. However, you can also take a loan and invest in assets that are more productive. Let me take, for instance, a small company can take a loan and buy a machine and install that machine will reproduce and produce more cash flow and replicate the asset of that particular lender. So that is ideally, a loan is expected to create value, which means you take and you'll be able to add value to your assets and add value to the activity that you are running, be it an individual or a company.
Considering the current economic situation of Cameroon, will you advise individuals, enterprises, and even the state to prioritize consumption loans for immediate needs or investment loans? And what factors should be considered when making this decision?
Yeah, be it consumption or investment loan, it all depends on who is taking the loan and his objective. But of course, no economy grows without investments. No economy grows without, the potential to replicate wealth or to reproduce wealth. So you always say that you will always advise a borrower rather to obtain a loan to probably acquire assets that can reproduce, assets that have a longer lifespan and a longer service span that can add value to the purpose of the company or the individual. Now, for consumption, of course, usually you say that if you don't consume, you may not even have the borrow the time to live and be able to see better things. So it just depends on the person. But of course, as a financial expert, I would always advise that we obtain loans and invest into resources that can add value. For instance, if you take a loan, just buying a land is something that will add value over time. But of course, you have to be watchful that it adds values enough to be able to permit you pay the loan, or you exploit the land in a way that you'll be able to permit you pay the loan. At the end of the day, you may have paid your loan and then you have your land. So that is the value. That's how you can clearly see value being added. You can take a loan of 500,000, for instance. Let me take you are in a village setting. I buy a land of 1 hectare. On that land of 1 hectare, you can plant tomatoes, plant plantain, plant whatever, and you sell the produce from that farm, and over time you pay your loan of 500,000. What do you end up with? You end up with value, which is the land that you've been able to acquire.
Right, you already started answering my next question, but I want you to elaborate a little further on how to ensure that a borrower does not fall into a situation where he or she is unable to repay the loan.
That's a very interesting one. I must first of all tell you that not paying a loan, because that is kind of the risk and the liability of perhaps not paying a loan. But the reason for not paying a loan, I can put it into three, or the responsibilities. Partly the responsibilities can be on the side of the lender. The responsibility could also be on the part of the borrower, and also the responsibility can be in the environmental, which is those are environmental. I mean issues that are independent of neither the borrower nor the lender. To take with the lender, for instance, you must borrow first of all for legal activities. You must borrow based on the capacity to repay of the individual or the company. You must borrow, like you said, should the borrower not be able to pay, what is your fallback? You are expecting to have a fallback that if everything works against the borrower. Let's take, for instance, environmental factors like some disaster can happen. You probably will need a fallback. So you must borrow based on those three principles. Now, and more importantly, as you borrow, like we had told you earlier, borrowing is a whole process. It doesn't just mean you take money like the way individuals do, or when it comes to borrowing a financial institution, it's a process. It's different from borrowing from an individual, where an individual will just take 500,000, say, borrow me 500,000, let me do something. The individual takes and gives you. No, to a financial institution, borrowing is a process, which means that the individual or the borrower makes an assertion that I need 500,000, for instance, to pay in this period and to realize this objective. The borrowing means that you accompany that individual or a company, whoever person you may be attending to. You have to study and make sure that he has that capacity to repay. And once you make the decision to engage the borrowing, you also must have probably received a financing plan that detailed the objective or the issues that the borrower wants to satisfy. And in the process, you accompany, making sure that the objective of that loan is realized. I've just been telling you exactly what we do at level of CCC, which means that borrowing is not a one-off, or it's not just a spontaneous activity. With CCC, we ensure that it's a process. Borrowing is a process which we start by, first of all, assessing the allegations of the customer, because you want to borrow, you come with certain allegations, your purpose, your time frames and everything, and then you probably provide some documents that will go or will attempt to justify all your assertions. We now we now have to study those documents, confirm that your assertions are correct and you have that capacity to repay. Then now we can perhaps make the decision that we're going to be borrowing to you. And once we make that decision, you sign your contract. We now disburse the money to you in phases that will permit you realize your objective. Because that is key. Because if the borrower don't realize the objective, there's high risk of default, of the borrower not paying. So we follow that up. And once the borrower has taken the money and the objective even realized, it doesn't even end there. You have to continue monitoring, following up the particular borrower to ensure that he's doing well and the capacity to repay is sustained.
What are the credit lines available for individuals, enterprises, and even the state to exploit productively?
In terms of credit facilities, I would just say that at the level of CCC, we can finance just every activity that is legal. Now, but you always know that loans, you can break them up into short-term, medium-term, and long-term based on the activity that is being financed. And in those durations, we have now loans broken down into the specific activities. Let me take, for instance, school fee loans. During school fee, you want to send your child to school, you can get a loan for school fee. We call that one a school fee loan, which is also a short-term loan. You can want to buy an equipment for your factory or perhaps for your poultry or whatever. You can have an equipment loan. You may want to build a house. You have a housing loan. You may want to. So if you are a company, you just want to reinforce your working capital, we can have some form of working capital financing, which is a treasury loan. You may be a company and you have a contract that you want it be finance. So we have a loan type, which is also a short-term loan called contract financing. Or you have a bill, we can discount the bill. You have, so it just depends, like I say, there are several loan types, but all of that depends on the objective of the customer. But what we want to say is that just every person is has the possibility to have a loan. The most important thing is how you build your case, you justify your assertions, whatever that you have, you put it together, and you meet your banker, or you go to your financial institution. They'll be able to ascertain, like if you come to CCC, whoever you may be. Let me just take a basic example. Let's say somebody is selling tomatoes at Sandaga and needs a loan of 300,000. Many people would think that it's not feasible, but those are things that are doable. But the person must be able to make an assertion that he has this need, justify the assertion that, okay, he sells 20,000 francs a day, perhaps he has a sales record. He must be able to have kept a sales record for over a period of time, perhaps some expense records, because what we are trying to do is that we want to see what is the capacity that you have. So you must be able to track your revenue and your expenses, so that at any point in time you can know what your margins are. And based on your margins, or you are somebody that is just simply working, all of that is based on the capacity that you have. Like in the case of the tomato seller, based on your margin, we'll be able to ascertain how much risk we can take with you. And if we think that your business is susceptible to some kind of environmental conditions, we may ask you to probably bring a guarantor, some other person that will feel that is more stable, or we may ask you to bring perhaps, depending on the amount too. So depending on the risk profile, we may ask you to bring perhaps a landed property and stuff. But depending on the amount and everything, the risk profile of the customer, it permits us to know exactly what measures, what preventive or adhesive measures that we can take in terms of mitigating against the consequences of default.
You talked about tomato sellers, and I'm interested in low-income earners and holders of small businesses. It is relatively easier for the big guys, or better still, the economic giants, to obtain loans from banks, but very difficult, and to some even impossible, notably for low-income earners and small business holders to obtain a loan from the bank. What are you doing to facilitate access to loans for low-income earners and small business holders?
Thank you very much for that very critical question. Let me say that banking or financing is a relationship business. So it depends on the relationship that you create with your banker or with your financial institution that gives them confidence about you. So one of the drawbacks of these, let me say, petty businesses is that most of them, they keep their money in their hands, and or different junkie groups and all other things. But what we advise is that the best is you first of all have to open an account. Once you open an account, you have engaged a relationship, and you are now turning your cash flow within that account. So whoever you may be, whatever size of business you have, once you now have, after opening an account and you have engaged a relationship, they see how your account is flowing. Now you get to your banker and be able to make your assertion or your need for the loan, and then now they'll be able to evaluate, even based on the account and based on the other financial records that you should keep. Because what we always emphasize is that irrespective of the size of your business, endeavor to keep some form of records. And then you channel your cash flow within your account or within your financial institutions. That will facilitate the review processes. Like I said, all lending is a risk issue, so it all depends on the risk evaluation. So who has a business that turns 50,000 francs a week and somebody that turns 500,000 francs a week. Those are two different persons, and their needs are different. So based on that, somebody that has a turnover of 50,000 francs a week, you can ask for a loan of, say, 200,000, 100,000. You get it too, and then based on that relationship that you must have created. That's why I always encourage, first of all, that you create a relationship and make sure that your banker knows you in and out. Don't hide any information. Be identifiable, because usually customers have that issue that at times they don't have a fixed location that the banker can easily get to them. So you reveal yourself, be true to your financial institution, and then domicile your proceeds well, then engage that relationship. I'm sure anywhere, anytime, you'll be able to have a loan. The problem may just depend, may just be the amount that that may be an issue. But all of that, depending on how you build your case, you'll be able to have a loan.
Developing the banking culture.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
What are the advantages of borrowing from financial institutions like banks, microfinance institutions, instead of borrowing from individuals, money lenders, and social groups?
You know, borrowing is supposed to be a regulated activity. First of all, borrowing from individuals is an illegal activity. I think you must know that. So it is required that if you are borrowing money, except perhaps they are doing without interest, but once interest is involved, it has to go through a financial institution. And the advantages of borrowing from a financial institution, let me say a microfinance institution like CCC, would be that you have accompaniment, because we'll be able to accompany you realize your objective. We'll be there with you from the beginning, within the activity, and at the end, and perhaps even recommend to you better ways of running your business. Because mark you, we don't just borrow, we also offer financial services, financial advice to customers. So you want to get within a system that you have a complete package. Because in the Quarter and Jangi group, be rest assured that you may not have the amount that you require, or they may not give you based on the activity that you are running and just everything. They may not accompany, they may not monitor how your business is running. At the end of the day, you run into problems and you are not able to pay. And once you're not able to pay, the reaction from a financial institution will always be different from the reaction from say individuals and stuff, because we will work with you, we want to recover our money too professionally. Some in the Quarter, if you have a business challenge and you're not able to pay, perhaps they may decide to kill you somehow. Something can just happen to you.
You end up in jail.
You can be jailed even through the financial institution, but some illegal repressive measure can be taken on you if you have a business challenge. But through a financial institution, of course, we go through the process. You can be refinanced. We can even, if you discover that the problem is just your working capital that is short and you need more money, we can study that and be able to give you more money that can permit you run your activity better and repay your loan normally. So,
what about interest rates? With private lenders, the interest rates are generally exorbitant.
Yeah, I was just to get to that because of that particular advantage of borrowing through a financial institution, because you have a favorable interest rate. For instance, like in CCC, we have some of the lowest interest rates in the sector. You know, it's a regulated activity. We have S.E.R, which is a government agency that comes from time to time to ensure that we don't borrow at usury rates, that is rates that are illegal or exorbitant rates, let me put it that way. So you are sure that the rates that you'll be given here are rates that are being examined and approved. Besides, we compare with others, with banks, other microfinance institutions, and make sure that our rates stay competitive. And of course, I'll tell you that they are the best that you can have in the sector.
What's the difference between borrowing from a microfinance institution and borrowing from a bank?
We are two different sectors. There's bank, there's microfinance institution, and what's the difference between borrowing from a bank and borrowing from a microfinance institution? One of the things I must say, like I was just talking about the examples of tomato seller, is that at the level of the microfinance institution, there's proximity. That relationship is right there, very close, and ensuring that we relate better, you know. And then while I don't want to take too much of the case of banks, but it's obvious that microfinance is closer to the customer. They understand the customer. They work with the customer on a daily basis, and so the customer feel comfortable with them, and then relate better. So you can see then they can always have their problems, not only because at the level of microfinance institution, the thing is that you can easily borrow, and then the conditions of the borrowing are more flexible. For instance, you may have the timing, because you can go to a bank and it takes 1 month for your file to be processed. You may have lost your advantage before the money is given to you, but to a microfinance institution, you can have it at a shorter time because of that proximity and the amount that they will give you. Perhaps it may not be the amount that banks will be able to treat, but it will be an amount that goes within or along with your financing need.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. Thank you for your time. Continue staying with us on Equinoxe Television.